Imagine living inside a room where every object is lined up perfectly, every shadow falls in a precise place, and even the air seems to follow a rhythm you've created. You breathe in, and the world outside feels chaotic, messy, unpredictable, and in that mess, there's a quiet panic you've learned to carry alone. It's a feeling that nothing will stay safe if you don't hold it, if you don't arrange it, if you don't control it. Maybe you recognize it, maybe you've lived it, or maybe you see it in someone else. And there's a quiet curiosity about why the urge to control can feel so urgent, almost life-saving. Somewhere deep inside, control is never just about neat desks or scheduled hours. It's a language for fear. When you grow up in a space where predictability was fragile, where love or safety felt conditional, or when small moments of chaos felt like storms, the need to control becomes a quiet survival strategy. A child notices quickly when the world obeys certain rules, when you hold your emotions just so, when you anticipate others' reactions, you can prevent harm. And so behaviors form, subtle yet enduring. Arranging, double-checking, guarding, steering situations, and even people, as if holding the strings keeps the world from breaking apart. There's a tiny erosion that happens with this over time. People often mistake it for rigidity or stubbornness, but beneath the surface is something fragile. A stick figure walking across an empty canvas, its movements deliberate, its eyes scanning for invisible cracks, its hands tracing imaginary boundaries. That figure has learned early that if it does not act, if it does not control, the world becomes a threatening place. Micro-traumas, the forgotten scoldings, the ignored small needs, the invisible rejections, pile quietly. They accumulate like dust in the corners of an empty room, unnoticed, yet shaping the way the figure moves, the way it reacts, the way it anticipates. Control can feel like power, but often it is just a shield. It is not about dominating others, but about holding the world close enough that it doesn't surprise you, close enough that it doesn't hurt you. And yet, even as you line up the objects, even as you double-check the door, even as you rewrite the day in your mind to anticipate every possible outcome, there is a subtle loneliness, a silent whisper that the world remains untouchable. Others may see the organization, the diligence, the precision, but rarely do they see the trembling underneath, the anxiety that hums when things drift beyond your grasp. Sometimes we confuse this behavior with failure. We hear whispers in our minds, "You're too much," or "Why can't you relax?" We watch stick figures trying to steady every wobble in their drawn-out paths, imagining that this is somehow weak or flawed. But it is not. It is a strategy that once saved you, that once kept you safe when the world seemed unpredictable, when emotions were stormy seas, when security was something you had to earn by reading every pattern, anticipating every curve. The stick figure does not run from the chaos. It preempts it. It does not yield to uncertainty. It sketches borders to feel less fragile. Understanding this is not an excuse, nor a justification. It is an act of kindness toward yourself. The patterns that feel controlling are not failures of character. They are evidence of resilience. Every time you rearrange a room, every time you adjust a plan, every time you adjust a plan, every time you check and recheck, it is a way your mind whispers, "I will survive." But the challenge arises when that whisper becomes a command, when the safety strategies that once served you begin to limit life instead of protecting it. Control, once armor, can turn into isolation, can turn into fear that others' choices will undo your careful balance. It is in recognizing this duality that change begins. Like a stick figure learning to step beyond the drawn lines of its canvas, it begins with small acts of trust, letting a pen roll across the floor, allowing a line to curve where it may, leaving a shadow unmoved. Each step is a quiet rebellion against the old rules, an experiment in safety that is not built on precision, but on confidence in one's own resilience. Control, then, can shift from a fortress to a compass, a guide that helps navigate life without tethering every movement to fear. Healing comes in understanding that the world does not need to be controlled for you to exist safely within it. Every stick figure, once rigid and cautious, can learn to sway with the brushstrokes, to embrace spaces between lines, to find calm in unpredictability. Childhood patterns, attachment wounds, the silent accumulation of micro-traumas, they are not badges of shame. They are maps of where you have walked, and they point toward what needs gentle care. The mind, like a canvas, is not damaged by the colors outside your control. It is expanded by them, made more intricate by every unplanned hue that enters. And yet, there is patience required. You cannot erase decades of strategies overnight. The stick figure may stumble at first, may retreat when shadows loom, may sketch boundaries instinctively, but each time you allow the unexpected to enter, each time you step beyond the meticulously drawn lines, you teach yourself that chaos is not the enemy. You learn that fear can coexist with courage, that uncertainty can coexist with trust, that love and connection are not forfeited when you loosen your grip. In these small moments, something begins to shift. The hand that once trembled at disorder now hesitates only briefly, then reaches outward. The eyes that once scanned for fractures now linger on what is beautiful, what is spontaneous, what is alive. And slowly the stick figure becomes more than a survivor. It becomes an artist of life, drawing not only within the lines, but beyond them, discovering that freedom is not the absence of fear, but the presence of choice. You may still feel the pull to control, the echo of early lessons that taught vigilance over ease, and that is okay. Awareness is the first gentle step toward rewriting the rules. The stick figure does not need to discard its boundaries entirely. It learns to build them consciously, not compulsively. It learns that safety can coexist with spontaneity, that structure can coexist with flow, that protection can coexist with trust. This transformation is subtle, it is quiet, it is unglamorous, but it is profound. Every small act of letting go is a declaration. I am not my fears. I am not the sum of my childhood anxieties. I am not bound by the strategies that once kept me alive. I am allowed to feel, to fail, to witness life in its imperfect, unpredictable form. And in this permission lies healing, a slow kind of grace that nurtures the soul, like sunlight seeping into a room that was always kept too dim. Over time, the stick figure may stand taller, may trace its path with less hesitation, may even find joy in the unpredictability it once feared. The world remains messy, imperfect, and outside control, but this no longer feels threatening. The mind, the heart, the very self once fragile and hyper-alert, now holds a quiet trust that no matter what happens, it can endure, it can adapt, it can thrive. Control, then, is no longer a prison. It becomes a lens through which to understand your own history, a tool to navigate life without letting fear dictate every choice. You are no longer just surviving. You are learning to live. And in that living, you discover that the empty spaces, the unplanned lines, the shadows that shift and sway, these are not voids to be feared. They are the very places where healing, joy, and freedom quietly begin. The stick figure, once trapped in patterns of protection, now sketches with intention. It pauses, it observes, it allows itself the grace to bend, to curve, to step into the unexpected. And with each movement it whispers, I am here, I am safe, I am enough. Because the truth is, needing control was never a weakness, it was a way to survive. And learning to let go, to trust, to embrace life's uncertainty is not surrender. It is the most profound act of courage you can offer yourself. It is the quiet realization that you are not defined by fear, but by your capacity to heal, to grow, and to step beyond the lines you once drew so tightly, discovering the beauty in what you cannot command and the freedom in who you truly are.